Stoic life lessons. Men learn. Too late in life. There comes a pivotal season in a man's life, a moment not marked by celebration or public achievement, but by stillness. It doesn't arrive in the reckless energy of youth or the passionate chase of ambition. It doesn't come when you're surrounded by applause or immersed in the heat of desire. It comes quietly, often in solitude, when the noise of the world recedes and you can finally hear the sound of your own inner voice. It is in this silence that many men come face to face with a hard truth. They have been climbing the wrong ladder, chasing illusions, measuring life by the wrong standards. The accolades, the possessions, the status, they seemed important once. But now they feel hollow, temporary, insufficient. This realization rarely comes early. More often, it dawns after years of striving, when the cost of ignoring the soul begins to show. When the mirror no longer reflects the boy who once dreamed of greatness, but the man who traded meaning for momentum. In those moments, what once felt like progress can begin to resemble regret. Before we continue, if any part of this video resonates with you, tell me in the comments, which of these signs have you been seeing in your life? And if you're ready to step into your best self, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Your future is waiting. Now go claim it. Let's continue. The ancient Stoics tried to prepare us for this. They left behind blueprints for a deeper kind of life, not one built on external validation or fleeting pleasure, but on virtue, discipline, and inner peace. Seneca wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." But most men don't. They mistake busyness for purpose. They live reactively, not reflectively. They allow culture to define success instead of asking what it means to live a life of integrity and calm. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, reminded himself daily, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" How many men pause to ask that simple question before giving away their time, energy, or values? How many ask it before sacrificing their mental health, their families, their dignity? Epictetus, once a slave, taught that freedom is not found in riches or titles, but in mastery of the self. No man is free who is not master of himself. Yet most men today are enslaved, not by chains, but by cravings, fear, ego, and the need to be seen. These Stoic truths are not soft philosophy. They are a mirror. They reflect back the life we've lived and the life we still have time to shape. But the tragedy is that many men only look into that mirror when the fire has dimmed, when youth is behind them, and when the sands of time are already slipping through the glass too quickly to stop. This is not a sermon. It's a wake-up call, a quiet reckoning, a chance to remember what matters. Not when the end is near, but now, while life still pulses in your veins. This is the path the Stoics walked, and it's the path still available to any man willing to look inward, to question the script, and to begin again. Not with noise, but with wisdom. You control very little. But that's your power. From the moment a man becomes aware of himself and his surroundings, he is subtly conditioned to believe that control is the measure of strength. Control over his environment, his relationships, his career path, his finances, his future. The modern world rewards this illusion, celebrates the one who conquers, who commands, who dictates the terms of his life. And so, from a young age, men are taught to grip tightly, to steer every outcome, to manipulate the pieces of life as if it were a chessboard that could be mastered by sheer will. But the deeper truth, often hidden until failure or age reveals it, is that control is far more limited than we are led to believe. In fact, very little in this life is truly within our power. And yet, Acknowledging this is not an admission of weakness. It is the very foundation of wisdom. The Stoics, centuries ago, understood this fundamental truth. Epictetus, born into slavery, stripped of worldly freedom, declared one of the most liberating insights in philosophy. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. A statement so simple, yet so profound, it could reframe an entire life. You cannot control whether the economy crashes tomorrow. You cannot control if your partner stays or leaves. You cannot control if your child gets sick. You cannot control the weather, the traffic, the opinions of others, or even what the next hour of your life might hold. You cannot control the actions of others, the random misfortunes of life, the betrayals that may come, the recognition that may never arrive. You cannot control your past, and you certainly cannot control the inevitability of your death. And yet, within that storm of uncertainty, there is one still point. One fortress no external force can breach: your mind, your choices, your responses. As Marcus Aurelius put it, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is not resignation. It is not passivity. It is clarity. It is the strength of a man who knows where to focus his effort and where to surrender. Who knows that peace does not come from trying to rule the external world, but from mastering the internal one. You can choose your attitude in the face of loss. You can choose your values even when no one rewards you for them. You can choose patience in a world addicted to speed. You can choose discipline when the world tempts you with indulgence. You can choose dignity when others offer pettiness. This is not easy. In fact, it may be the hardest task of all: to direct your energy inward when everything around you screams for control of the outer world. But this is where true power lies. Most men spend decades burning themselves out, trying to shape things they were never meant to control. They become angry at things that do not bend, frustrated by people who do not behave as expected, anxious about futures that are never guaranteed. They become prisoners of outcomes, addicted to expectations, forever at the mercy of events they cannot predict. And often, only after life humbles them, after losses and disappointments pile up, do they begin to understand the wisdom of turning inward. The Stoic man is not a man without feeling. He is not indifferent or emotionally numb. He is simply grounded. He is the one who sees clearly, who focuses his will only where it matters, who no longer squanders his strength trying to push back the ocean. Instead, he becomes like the rock the ocean crashes against, firm, still, unmoved. He understands that surrendering what he cannot control is not weakness. It is maturity. It is peace. It is freedom. So the question becomes, will you spend your life chasing control over things you will never own? Or will you begin, here and now, to govern yourself and discover the kind of strength that can never be taken from you? That is the Stoic choice, and it is yours to make. Emotions aren't enemies, but you must lead them. From the earliest days of boyhood, most men are handed a script, one that teaches them to equate strength with silence and manhood with emotional restraint. Crying is weakness, fear is shameful, anger is justified, but only if it makes you seem powerful. Vulnerability, that's for someone else. But over time, as life becomes more complex and the emotional weight of choices, losses, and disappointments begins to build, many men find themselves unable to explain the quiet storm within. They may not speak of it, but they feel it. In the clenched jaw at midnight, the unexplained rage in traffic, the hollow ache in solitude. Something is what they discovered and what they tried to teach is this: emotions are not enemies. They are not shameful. They are not defects in your nature. They are natural responses, signals sent by the mind and body. But they must be led. They must be understood. They must be guided by reason, or they will lead you into destruction. Epictetus wrote, "Man is not disturbed by things, but by the view he takes of them. It is not the loss itself that breaks you. It is the story you tell yourself about what that loss means. It is not failure that ruins a man. It is his belief that he is now worthless. It is not rejection that wounds. It is the lie that he is now unlovable. The emotion is a response. The suffering is a choice. Many men fall apart not because life is too hard, but because they were never taught how to process their inner world. They fear their feelings. They suppress them. Or worse, they are ruled by them. A man who cannot recognize his fear becomes paralyzed by it. A man who cannot face his sadness becomes bitter. A man who cannot own his anger becomes cruel. A man who cannot acknowledge guilt becomes ashamed and lost. In all of these cases, the emotion becomes the master, and the man, the slave. Stoicism offers another path, not repression, but leadership. The Stoic man doesn't deny his emotions. He examines them. He welcomes them to the table, listens to their voice, and then chooses his response deliberately. He does not lash out in rage. He investigates what the anger is trying to protect. He does not drown in sorrow. He asks what the grief is trying to honor. He does not run from fear. He considers what must be done in spite of it. This is not emotional suppression. This is emotional discipline, a kind of inner martial art, a calm, reasoned stance that sees the wave of emotion rise and refuses to be dragged under by it. When a relationship ends, he mourns, but he does not lose himself, because he never tied his identity solely to being loved. When a business fails, he recalibrates, but he does not spiral into despair, because he knows that status is temporary, but character is forever. When he is wronged, he feels the sting, but he does not become vengeful, because his dignity is not worth trading for revenge. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now." This is the root of emotional sovereignty, the understanding that while you may not control what you feel, you absolutely control what you do with what you feel. This doesn't mean the Stoic man is emotionless. Far from it. He is grounded, not cold. Present, not reactive. Passionate, but principled. He knows the landscape of his inner world. He walks through it every day with awareness and humility. To lead your emotions is not to become a robot. It is to become fully human. Not tossed around by every fleeting feeling, but centered, rooted in reason, and able to carry the weight of life with steadiness. That is not weakness. That is strength of the rarest kind. So ask yourself, are you leading your emotions, or are they leading you? Because the answer to that question determines not just how you feel, but who you ultimately become. Don't give it freely to those who drain you. Don't spend it on resentment, gossip, or mindless distractions. Don't allow it to be stolen by fear of failure or fear of judgment. Give it to your growth, to your family, to meaningful work, to silence and reflection, to creation, to love, to becoming the man you were meant to be. Not someday, but today. Time is your most valuable currency. Once it's gone, no amount of regret, no desperate bargain, no late revelation can buy it back. Use it well. Use it now. External validation is a trap. From the moment a boy takes his first steps into the world, he begins to learn a dangerous lesson. Approval equals worth. the smile from a proud parent after a good grade, the teacher's praise for following the rules, the admiration from peers for winning, achieving, fitting in. Bit by bit, a boy absorbs the message that who he is matters less than how he is seen. That applause, recognition, and external approval are the highest forms of value. By the time he becomes a man, the lesson is firmly entrenched. Work hard to impress. Dress to impress. Post to impress. Perform, achieve, collect. Titles, trophies, followers, accolades. Live not from within, but in response to the shifting judgment of others. But this path, the Stoics warned, is not freedom. It is bondage. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your own integrity. To live for external validation is to hand over your peace of mind to the crowd, to become a slave to opinion, to constantly measure yourself by mirrors you do not control. And there is no greater prison than one built from invisible applause. Many men wake up to this truth too late. There was a man named Elias, a name you won't find in history books. On paper, he had it all. A corner office, a house with high ceilings, a luxury car in the driveway. He was admired, respected, a success. He had spent his life climbing, earning, collecting the badges of honor handed out by the world. From the outside, he was the man every other man wanted to be. But inside, he was hollow. One evening, Elias found himself standing in front of his bathroom mirror after a long, empty day. His wife had grown distant. His kids barely knew him. He hadn't slept well in years. He stared into his own eyes and realized he didn't really know the man looking back. Everything he had built, his wealth, his title, his reputation, had been constructed on the foundation of other people's expectations. Not his own values, not his own truth. And in that quiet moment, he asked himself the question no one had ever taught him to ask. Do I respect the man I've become? The answer was no. Elias had spent his life chasing applause, but the crowd had long since moved on to someone newer, louder, younger, and now all he had were memories of moments where he performed, but never truly lived. He had mastered the art of winning, but never discovered what it meant to live by his own compass. This story isn't rare. It's the silent reality of many men who have everything but feel nothing, because they spent their lives looking outward instead of inward. The Stoic path offers a different standard. It is not built on comparison, but on character, not on applause, but on alignment. To the Stoics, true success was not in being admired, it was in being principled. Epictetus taught, "Seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves." This is the Stoic challenge, to live not for the world's praise, but for your own respect. To be able to look in the mirror and know that, even if no one notices, you did what was right. You stayed true. You did not bend your values for approval. You did not trade your soul for applause. To be internally validated means living by your principles, even when no one is watching. To strive for excellence, not for attention, but because it is your standard. It means understanding that your dignity is not up for public vote. This kind of strength is rare because it's quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg to be seen. But it is unshakable. And when the applause fades, and it always does, the man who lives from within will still stand tall. Because his worth was never for sale. His peace was never rented out. And his self-respect was never dependent on a crowd. So ask yourself, today and every day, if no one ever clapped for you again, would you still be proud of who you are? Because if the answer is yes, then you're free, truly free. Adversity is a gift in disguise. To most men, adversity appears as a curse, an unwanted guest that barges into life, uninvited and unwelcome. A lost job, a failed relationship, a sudden illness, a betrayal, a dream that crumbles despite years of effort. These moments sting, and rightly so. They disrupt the comfort we cling to. They shatter our carefully laid plans. They remind us how little control we truly have, and so we curse them. We resist. We ask, why me? But the Stoics offered a radically different perspective, one born not of naive optimism, but of seasoned resilience. They believed adversity was not punishment. It was preparation, a tool used by nature to carve character from comfort. As Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor strengthens the body. This wasn't metaphor to him, it was truth. Just as a blacksmith tempers steel and fire, adversity tempers the human soul. Comfort rarely teaches, it soothes, it sustains. But it doesn't forge, it doesn't demand anything of you. But adversity, it strips you bare. It forces you to meet yourself without your masks. And in that meeting, there is potential for transformation. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Jonah, a quiet man, not especially bold, not especially broken, just ordinary. He lived by the rules. He did what was expected. College, career, marriage. He never rocked the boat. He wanted a peaceful life. Then, all at once, the bottom fell out. In the span of a single year, he lost his job in a company-wide layoff. His wife, distant for months, confessed she no longer loved him. His father died suddenly. Jonah was left with no role to play, no partner to come home to, no parent to call for advice. He collapsed inward. For weeks, he barely left his apartment. Shame, fear, grief, each wrapped around him like chains. He cursed his life, he cursed his luck, he even cursed God, if one existed. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, something began to shift. He started walking, just around the block at first, then farther. He picked up a journal and started writing, not for anyone to see, but to make sense of his own swirling thoughts. He started reading, philosophy mostly, and that's where he found the Stoics, Marcus, Seneca, Epictetus. Their words didn't offer pity, they offered power. Not power over circumstances, but power over himself. He came across the quote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." It hit him like a lightning bolt. Jonah began to understand that this pain wasn't meaningless. It was a mirror, a teacher, a fire that, if he faced it with courage, could burn away everything false and leave only what was true. He stopped waiting for things to go back to normal. He stopped blaming. He began building, not in defiance of the pain, but because of it. He started his own small business, risky, uncertain, but deeply personal. He reconnected with friends he had pushed away. He forgave his ex-wife, not to absolve her, but to free himself. Years later, someone asked him what changed his life. He didn't say a mentor or a book or even the Stoics. He said, rock bottom. Because it wasn't the end, it was the beginning. This is what the Stoics meant when they spoke of adversity as sacred. It is life's forge. It is the fire that purifies. It is the storm that forces you to anchor your values or else be swept away. When hardship arrives, you are faced with a choice. Will you become bitter, or will you become better? Will you let pain define you, or refine you? Most men fear adversity because it threatens their identity. But the Stoic man embraces it because he understands this truth. The man you are after hardship is always stronger, wiser, more authentic, if you choose to endure with open eyes and an intact soul. Comfort may feel good in the moment, but it rarely calls forth greatness. Pain, on the other hand, invites transformation. Not automatically, but through conscious response, through courage, through reflection, through discipline. So when adversity comes, and it will, remember the Stoic view. Don't run, don't numb, don't curse the sky. Instead, look at it straight on and ask, what is this here to teach me? Because that question turns victims into warriors, suffering into wisdom, and pain into power. Hardship is not the enemy, it is the doorway. And on the other side is the man you were meant to become. Desire is a bottomless pit. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. More money, more power, more women. More, more, more. This is the modern man's mantra, but insatiable desire leads only to anxiety and emptiness. The Stoic man learns the art of enough, not because he's weak, but because he's wise enough to know that joy comes from simplicity, not excess. He drinks deeply of life's simple pleasures, a walk, a deep conversation, a job well done. Peace isn't found in getting more, it's found in wanting less. Death is the final teacher. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Men avoid thinking about death. They act as if they're immortal, wasting time, holding grudges, fearing judgment. But death is the Stoic's most powerful reminder. Memento mori, remember, you will die. Not to depress you, but to wake you up. To remind you life is short. Speak the truth. Live courageously. Forgive quickly. Love fiercely. The man who remembers death lives. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.